That's all of us. Me, you, Homo sapiens sapiens, the human who thinks twice. It was worth about 7,684,000,000. And since it's estimated that 100 billion modern men and women have lived on Earth in total since our appearance. So, nearly 7% of humans are still standing. They're living here now. You're one of them, for better or for worse. We're all the last humans still alive, but also the last survivors of the Homo genus. If you invited one representative from each species of this genus to dinner, you'd have one guest and 15 empty chairs. Because if we're the last, we're certainly not the first humans to have lived on this planet. If our history is anything, it's not just a series of less stooped species gradually standing upright. Maybe we sometimes walked alongside those who come after us. Modern humans spread across Africa and then worldwide less than 200,000 years ago. He follows in the footsteps of other human species. There are at least 7 Australopithecine families that lived between 5 and just over 1 million years ago, long before Homo sapiens. 5 million years, Africa and a large part of the world were already populated. Like most of the 15 Homo species, many coexisted. Our ancestors surely crossed paths with the last Homo erectus, the women and men of Neanderthal, Denisova or Flores. All these human species are now extinct. Many knew how to control fire, build shelters, make tools, and use symbolic representation. All these innovations, long considered as the birth acts of humanity, were not unique. They appeared at different levels of mastery and complexity among all hominids. Neanderthals buried their dead and wore jewelry. Some may have even had elaborate forms of language. In this innovative empire, not all paths led to man. There was no single decisive mutation, just thousands accumulated. Humans did not become self-aware cultural beings in a single moment. Also, this doesn't even consider Anthropos, a descendant of an Australopithecus branch who wasn't actually a Homo, and he lived in southern and South Africa before disappearing forever without leaving any descendants. When these forms of humanity met, they may have fought but also formed relationships. Because we still carry traces of these encounters today. All the descendants of those who left Africa walk around today with 1 to 2% Neanderthal genes and between 4 to 6% Denisovan genes for the Malaysians. You make the flame like this. Everyone has their own way, but I find this more practical. We've also passed this bad habit to each other of using fire, which, among other benefits, lowered our digestion energy costs. When you cook food over fire, the fire does most of the work. That was the minimum needed for our big brain to evolve. Because while this organ is undeniably useful, it is still a burden. It uses almost 20% of our energy but is only 2% of our weight. But we won't hold it against them because it's thanks to them that we're able to produce language. No brain, no video. To you, this would all be noise. With our larynx, palate, and teeth, we sculpt air to create different sounds. Words that take the shape of danger, that name the prey, express love, anger, or fear. Words give us great powers. Don't think about a cougar. By forming mental images and creating mutants, words that capture multiple things at once. Myth words, legends, beliefs that tell stories, which give value to things and people, and let us consider what no one has seen before. To think abstractly or symbolically, ethics, aesthetics, logic, good, evil, beauty, truth. So many abstractions that, passed from mouth to ear, have spread, encapsulated in words and existing only in our minds. They're getting bigger at birth, so to come out, it has to happen earlier. As a result, we're less finished. Honestly, we're a mess as little kids. Before age 1, our arms are too short to reach the tops of our heads. Although we spend a long time learning with our big brains, we don't do it quickly. We must watch over our children, whose survival sadly depends on our attention. This may have had surprising consequences. Strong bonds between women and newborns likely contributed to the rise of medicine in ancient times. Healers, medicine women, shamans, witches, call them what you will. But the practice of caring, extending from children to the sick, the elderly, and the disabled, surely helped to strengthen social bonds. Language also reinforced these bonds, often playing the same role as grooming does in monkey societies. It helped to ease conflicts and form attachments with others. We are still at humanity's dawn. Morphologically, these humans are us. At first glance, from a purely physical point of view, you might think it's not exactly amazing. Yet this creature will eventually travel to the moon. We're often tempted to give all the credit for our success solely to our brain. Physically, we have great qualities, especially our size. We're the largest living primates after gorillas and orangutans. Unlike other primates, we might be remarkable long-distance runners. The lack of hair allows us to regulate our temperature during exertion. And against parasites, it's awesome. As for our hands, with their opposable thumbs and fine manipulation, some see them as our greatest asset for success. Perfect for slapping, giving high fives, or making and holding tools that connect to our brains like extensions. In just a few thousand generations, first in all corners of the African continent, then throughout the entire world, we began fishing, storing and processing resources, and creating increasingly complex items. Blades, harpoons, bone tools, sculpting figurines, and burying our dead. We began making ourselves look good, wearing necklaces, drawing on our bodies, and painting rocks. Stories. The stories of the animals we live with and hunt: woolly rhinoceros, elk, megakeros, antelope, aurochs, bear, mammoth, hyena, and cave lion. They all appear on decorated Paleolithic cave walls. And already, we've started to make quite a mess. We haven't invented writing yet, but we've already crossed out many lines in the Book of Extinct Species. Globally, in the past 50,000 years, 80% of species over a ton have vanished in the wake of our migrations. The climate changes at the end of the last ice age were likely an aggravating factor. Strangely, nearly all these species survived 2 million years and multiple glacial periods before humans arrived. 7 of 23 large mammals disappeared in Europe. In North America, 33 of 45. In Australia, 15 of 16 megafauna species disappeared after humans arrived. And the craziest thing about all this is that back then we were just a tiny wisp of black smoke on the landscape. All in all, on a global scale, just a few million individuals at most, well organized, but only armed with shaped stones, fire, language, and a few ideas in their big brains. When I tell you that soon we'll go to the moon, all these things, fire, language, ideas, are both a heritage that we have passed down to each other, but also a kind of parasitism that our brain has caught and continues to host. That's called culture. It grows well in us, and we keep putting more of it into our children's minds. Nature didn't wait for us to develop culture. Unlike birds, who know how to build their nests innately, many species learn from their peers. Chimpanzees, for example, learn to choose and select sticks to go fishing for ants. They do it differently by group. Orcas and dolphins also learn their hunting methods and vocalizations. That's already the beginning of culture. What if, instead of passing on a skill, we shared a dance, ritual, or place? That's the direction we'll take. Great-grandma used to say that on the other side of the mountains, over there, we would find game and a beach full of pebbles, perfect for making hammerstones. So culture stops existing only in our minds, and it flows out into the world. It takes the stage in the Anthropocene. You watching this video, if your brain hadn't picked up culture from a very young age, would you have ever spoken? Had abstract thoughts that surely must have required to be developed, a titanic effort? Would you have been human? In short, our discoveries, innovations, and ideas continually move between minds. They outlive individuals, following their own path like sharp flints passed down through generations. Remembering prevents starting over, and the objects that surround us, just like the technique of the gesture, evolve, become more efficient, and accumulate. Then we start wearing pearls and shells, making instruments, and sewing needles for nice clothes. Stoneless phalluses, earthenware pots, and lots of pottery. By following reindeer, salmon, rivers, migrating aurochs, horses, birds, or escaping snow or drought, some of us quietly resisted, especially in temperate alluvial meadows with year-round water and food. It happened independently multiple times, each for different reasons. Did we stay because the elders couldn't walk anymore? so as not to move away from our dead buried nearby. Maybe we saw those as sacred lands. Anyway, we settled down, and believe me, becoming sedentary can be hell. The first ones to do that, people must have thought they were crazy. Maybe they were after all. Because staying in the same place means facing droughts and winter. We had culture, now we have agriculture. Sapiens begins gathering and collecting millions of seeds. And since what goes in must come out, the cereals find an extraordinary soil around the homes. Agriculture will spread or appear on its own in other regions of the world. Here, people started to grow wheat and millet. There, rice became our source of life. Farther south, it'll be taro and banana. Up in the mountains, people have potatoes for dinner. And just a few hundred kilometers from there, at the foot of the mountains, where wild tomatoes grow and the ocean is full of resources, people start growing cotton, not to eat, but to make clothes and fishing nets. In Central America, people domesticate corn, squash and beans, and even invent permaculture. In Africa, African rice, millet and sorghum. In the Mississippi Basin, it will be squash and sunflower, and in the Amazon, cassava. Here in these vast tropical forests, the story is less known. However, land near the dwellings, enriched by fishing, fire, pottery and dry toilets, will yield black soil. Among the world's most fertile regions, where Amerindians plant fruit trees and live in a large orchard. Each Neolithic revolution did not occur with the same species and climates. Each time, humans adapt according to the specific features of their land. Since many of us travel often, we've given away our plants and treasures. Wheat or barley from Mesopotamia reached the Indus Valley, then Europe, in 2,000–3,000 years. And while we're transforming plants, we're going to do the same with animals. By befriending wolves long ago, we turned them into dogs. And now we're domesticating goats, sheep, cattle, zebu, pigs, cats, chickens, donkeys, horses, buffalo, llamas, guinea pigs, silkworms, pigeons, Asian elephants, geese, alpacas, ducks, and even goldfish. And the list of these companions for play, hunting, plowing, or for feeding us is far from complete. Soon, we're going to globalize the mess. It all started because of food and also big money. When the humans here wanted to go get cinnamon, cardamom, ginger, and turmeric from those over there, while avoiding passing through here or there. So, they went west, hoping to find a shorter route, and ended up in America.
Hi, you know this isn't India, right? We don't care. What do you have? Beans, pineapples, potatoes, tomatoes, corn, sunflower, chili, squash, cocoa, strawberries, papaya, vanilla, cotton, avocado. We'll take it all.
And what do we get since we have them? Almost all domesticated animals, plus the diseases they bring. That's a bonus. Cholera, flu, malaria, frugal, plague, scarlet fever, smallpox, tuberculosis fever, typhoid and yellow fever. Oh, and we also give you Christianity. This clash between worlds that hadn't interacted for millennia sparked the largest spread of diseases in history. Up to 90% of Native Americans will die from epidemics even before encountering any white people. In America, except for some turkeys and a few llamas, humans didn't live with animals, whereas the domestication of livestock in Eurasia exposed us chronically to all the diseases our animals gave us. So, with the great discoveries, we made landscapes travel by changing the distribution areas of plants and animals. Arkansas wheat fields trace their origins to the Fertile Crescent. Southern France's sunflower fields resemble Mississippi landscapes. African cassava plantations resemble parts of the Amazon. As for the landscape of the American Wild West, with its wild horses, it actually originates from Mongolia. Imagine Italy with no tomatoes, France without potatoes, Mexico without corn, India and China without chili peppers, or a world without clichés. Do you feel like things are speeding up? I forgot to say we've had writing for some time. Being able to record things on stone, clay or paper. When you've spent your whole life thinking about a subject, improving a technique, it keeps everything from being lost just because your son has a bad memory. Well, honestly, at first, very few people knew how to read, so it was mainly used to keep track of who owed money to whom and what each god had said. But you get the idea. Writing allows thoughts and techniques to spread faster and often beyond their original culture. And not only do we accumulate more and more knowledge, but we also become more numerous. About 100,000 years ago, only a few thousand to tens of thousands of sapiens lived worldwide. 11,000 years ago, there were about 5 million of us. The entire Earth had about as many inhabitants as New Zealand has today. By 500 before Christ, our population hit 100 million, equal to modern Egypt's. 5 centuries later, the population hit 170 million, with almost a quarter in the Roman Empire. 1,000 more years pass, and now we're at 250 million. Back then, the global human population was slightly less than today's population of the Indonesian archipelago. In 1800, we reached 1 billion, and in 1850, 1,200 million. A huge number, and yet still less than the current population of India. In 1850, it needed nearly as many people as Earth's entire population in year zero to reach its current level. In 1930, we passed 2 billion, and since then, our species has multiplied by 4. Today, the world is ours. We're witnessing something huge. On the scale, our livestock, mainly cows and pigs, make up 60% of the weight of land mammals. Humans, and to a lesser extent their domestic companions, account for 36% and wild animals for only 4%. All the birds on our planet weigh less than all of our chickens. Since the Industrial Revolution, wild land mammals have decreased 6-fold, marine mammals 5-fold, and plant biomass by half. Typically, such crises result from volcanic eruptions, tectonic shifts, or asteroids. However, the latest is caused by US Sapiens sapiens, the Holocene asteroid. Since the Neolithic era, we've added some strings to our bows. Today's and past geniuses no longer work on flint or the plow. We have been handed down thousands of words, concepts, techniques, and myths. In the past century, changes have surpassed those of the previous 250,000 years. We have made metal objects that defy the clouds and produce so much energy that we can even be seen at night. We've come a long way. Today we can mostly deal with all the diseases that once decimated the Native Americans. And everything is speeding up, moving full steam ahead. Electricity, transportation, communication, and medicine have all progressed, sometimes for better or worse. 50 years after the moon landing, most of us carry devices with more computing power than the entire Apollo spacecraft. And they fit in our pockets. These are our phones. The existence of these objects, which just a few centuries ago, more than one king would have raised an army to possess, involves the work of hundreds of thousands of people throughout the entire chain, both in our present, but also somewhere else in time. And despite all these new things, so many of them, we still don't really know where we're going. By focusing too much on our own story, we've almost forgotten about everyone else's. Yet there's nothing that exists outside of Earth's history. For a long time, landscapes and nature quietly remained in the background for us, but now they've joined the game. We've paid for the parts we broke. We draw from it, we help ourselves, it's free, we wipe ourselves off. Feet on the ground and the head, elsewhere, in calculations, profits, the economy.
How dare you talk to us about catastrophe, about apocalypse? Modernity was promised to us and we conquered it.
Ignoring physics and biology, we cranked up our noise-cancelling headphones. So far, so good, so far, so good. There have never been so many brains on Earth, but most of them are offline. Sticking to this unwavering goal, to exploit and enjoy my freedom, pollution, and SUVs. It has become the ultimate goal for a growing part of our humanity. We, who are all the last representatives of a single species, could we have been mistaken about the meaning of these promises? Yet we've put so much of it into the minds of our little ones. Now so many of them have only one ideal. How would our ancestors view us and our dreams? Would they have been surprised to learn that 1% of the world's population owns almost half its wealth? They claim it's due to more talent or better hunting methods, but often it's just inherited timing.
Dad, why isn't there any more honey?
Because there are no more bees.
And why are there no more bees?
Ask your mother.
Mom, why aren't there bees anymore? Honestly, it's partly the fault of 1% of grandparents. They aimed to leave their mark on Earth, but rather than drawings, they ended up making tire tracks.